So welcome to the final PURA VIDA Mastermind Friday Framework call. It is Friday the 28th of December. I'm Kevin Cottrell. I have PURA VIDA head coach Stephanie on here with me. Stephanie, are you still there?
That was a funny question. Yes, I am still here.
I had no end of technology problems this month, so I just want to make sure you didn't get knocked off.
No, I am here with you, dear. In fact, I'm like 4 feet away, guys, just so for those of you who are joining in, I'm 4 feet away in my private office overlooking our pool deck and the beautiful green space in our backyard, and Mr. Kevin's in the office behind me. And yeah, I mean, it's the last Friday of 2012. It's hard to believe, isn't it, Kevin?
Well, you know, it's an interesting time for real estate, and for those of you that will be listening to this after the fact, it's time to sort of come out of the December holiday-based hibernation and get ready to rock and roll and get to work.
Yeah.
We turn the corner in most markets of the country very quickly, and things take off very quickly, but not for your competition. In other words, if you're a typical agent, you use the excuse of poor weather, cold weather. Meanwhile, your competition is taking action and taking ground in terms of taking listings and working with buyers. And so part of what we're doing today is we're going to talk about some of the key conversations you need to have in understanding what you may hear on the phone that you need to be able to overcome in order to schedule appointments.
Yep. It's all about using your words, isn't it?
Well, it's really philosophically understanding that you want to help people, and you're in the job in your business is to disqualify people, make a selection, and decide whether you want to work with them or not. And I think when you understand that, when we talk about objections and conditions, your objective is not to try and convince people to work with you. Your objective is to figure out who will work with you the way you want to work, how to eliminate the ones that won't, and how to ask questions to help people self-discover whether they're really a buyer or a seller that's going to succeed in your marketplace. And if you were to survey 100 real estate agents, probably less than 5 out of 100 get and understand that that is the objective. And what's interesting is that 5% parallels about the 5% in most markets that do somewhere between 90 and 97% of the business. Because if you were to ask any of those agents, they would clearly understand this. They would understand and use the language that I am in charge of who I work with, not the other way around. I don't convince people to work with me. I do disqualify people, and I regularly decide not to work with people. So when you're listening to our conversation today, think about the framework for the questions being, I'm not trying to convince you to work with me. I'm trying to decide whether or not you're a real buyer or a seller and have you understand why you would want to work with me and whether we're a match or not.
Right. Right. Well, before we get started, I just one thing we haven't said, Kevin, is happy holidays to everybody that we weren't with them over the Christmas holidays. We are going into another pseudo kind of a holiday weekend, and we just hope that everybody had an awesome holiday. And this is Friday Framework. It is about setting the foundation for our agent realtor friends, and we've got a lot of mortgage lenders who join us as well. And I just want to kind of reiterate, we get together every Friday, don't we, Kevin? And we're going to have I'm putting together a schedule for the next 90 days, for the next, at least the first quarter. So you'll know going into the first week in January what Kevin and I are going to be talking about every single week. And don't forget that we do publish these calls, these webinars, to our PURA VIDA YouTube page. So if for some reason you miss one, we're always going to be posting it up on the YouTube page, and we will be sending you the link to the webinars when they are completed, when we're done doing whatever we do as far as editing and posting them on YouTube page. You'll get a notification of that as well. So I just wanted to kind of reset the stage, and we'll probably do it again the first week in January about what this is all about. So Kevin Cottrell is always on me with these calls, and I think it just we love what we do, guys. And if you read that, the PURA VIDA mantra for 2013, PURA VIDA means pure life, living life at the fullest. And Kevin, go back a little bit. Go back one more bit. I just wanted to kind of go over that, we do live in a world where we have the leverage to make things happen, guys, that you do have an opportunity every day to get up and go to work, that you have a burning desire to do work that we believe in a marketplace, and I love this, in a marketplace that is begging us to be remarkable. Guys, look around your offices, look around your market centers, look around, wherever you're at, that the world is begging you to be remarkable. And we think that with some of the tools that we're giving you on a weekly basis that we can help you be remarkable, not just in the business, but also in your personal life as well. So anyway, let's get started. So there's my little speech this morning. So what I'm excited about today, and Kevin's going to explain this to you, is, Kevin, what is the difference between somebody having an objection and having a condition? Can you explain that to us?
Sure. And, objections sometimes people think of in the sense of a legal framework. Maybe you watch Law and Order, or you watch something else where there's a courtroom and somebody objects, and they're basically trying to throw up a block on something that's occurring. Well, in the framework of your business, I want you to think about an objection being a question in the mind of the prospective client that remains unanswered. In other words, if they're objecting or they're throwing up roadblocks to you, it's only an objection if it's an unanswered question. And when Stephanie wanted me to contrast that to a condition is something that is in the framework of your prospective client that you can't resolve. And let's take something that would be easy for us to define and have you understand. If somebody, and I'll give you 2 examples, is in a lease that does not end until July, you wanting to close them and meet with them and try and convince them to buy is not an objection when they say, I can't buy right now. It's a condition. The condition is that they have to get out of their lease in order to buy. And if somebody pushes back and said that, well, I don't think I can purchase right now, I've got some issues I need to work out, it is a condition, not an objection. If you ask the right set of questions, you come to find out that they filed for bankruptcy a while ago, got it cleared, and their anniversary for their discharge on their bankruptcy is not until March 1st. And those of you that are our lender friends that are on these calls or listening later will understand that it's a condition. They won't be getting a home loan until a certain period of time passes, and that is not something that you try and overcome. Conditions are things that you just set aside and understand that they're not something that you can talk the prospect through. Now, an objection as an unanswered question is just that. If they're pushing back and objecting, so to speak, to something, it means that you need to dig a little bit deeper, understand what the issue is, and then try and offer them a framework of which they can understand why it may make sense for them to move forward or not. You may decide that this is just not somebody that has the right framework in how they're approaching purchasing a home or selling their home that I want to work with. But if it's an objection, it's still an unanswered question.
Right. Right. And like you said, I think some of us might be almost to the point that we're arguing with the clients, or maybe creating some unnecessary conflict because we're trying to handle a condition where we don't have any control over a condition, do we? But we do have some control over an objection.
Absolutely. And that's a good way to think about unanswered questions or objections. You never want to argue with the client. And you'll see, and we'll talk about this today, that you can demonstrate some pretty firm questions. In other words, be very direct. But if you always go to having them understand why you're covering a certain topic or asking a certain set of questions, you can actually be very, very direct because your overall objective is to figure out whether you're a good match to work with them, but also keep them out of harm's way. And if you explain that that's why you're having the discussion you're having, most people won't get upset. Now, if you just fire off questions or sound like you're a jerk and don't have them understand the why this particular topic is important, you're liable to get hung up on or somebody that's going to give you a real negative reaction.
Right. I know that we've been in coaching before, Kevin, haven't we, where people would tell us that you need to get hung up on a couple times a day. Well, I don't necessarily think that that's true. If we understand that there are conditions and then there are objections, that as long as we understand, that there are 2 or 3 questions, we can go 2 or 3 deep on an objection. We can't go 2 or 3 deep on a condition, can we? Other than, can you get out of your lease? I mean, and that just seems like a silly question, doesn't it? So it just creates, I think, better.
And it's something that, I mean, I can just tackle the lease thing. If
Yeah.
If you do go the path of someone who's got a lease, for example, that's got a penalty to early terminate it, it's just a simple question. Is your intent to get out of your lease and purchase a home and possibly look to, pay the early termination fee in order to purchase? And if their answer is definitely not, then it remains a condition. They may not even know that that's an option. If you continue to push on a condition, you're going to feel like to them that you're just pushing them and you're a pushy salesperson.
Yeah. No, great point. Okay. So you want to go ahead and get started in the first one. And these are some of the ones that Kevin and I talked about this a little bit last night about what are our favorite 6. And the reason this really came up is because I do have, guys, what I do for a living is I'm a coach. I'm a business coach. And I coach mostly many realtors across the country. And what I'm hearing is, when I'm making my calls, when I'm talking to my sphere, or when I'm calling my expired search, I just don't even know what to say. So we do a lot of role playing on the phone, and Kevin and I we're going to be writing up, and I'll be posting them on my web page, on my website, some of the objections. And there's about 10 or 15 on the buy side, 10 or 15 on the listing side, and I'll actually be putting them out there for you in writing. Because when I went back to look at everybody that we've been in coaching with, I didn't have a really easy access to, well, if they say this, I say that. Unless we paid thousands of dollars for a particular class. But anyway, so we talked about some of our favorite ones. And the first one that we came up with is the Internet League came in, and I talked to them, and you and I know our script by heart, don't we, Kevin? But I talked to them, and they're moving in 2 months. How do I set an appointment to meet with them? So, Kevin, I've talked to them already. Maybe this is the second time that I've talked to them. I didn't close them for an appointment on the first call. And guys, the reason I let Kevin do this is because he's amazing at this. So I'm amazing as well, but he's even better than I am as far as scripts. So Kevin, what would you say it's on the second phone call? And you call him back, and it's, Judy Smith, and Judy's moving from St. Louis from one place to another, and she's moving in 2 months. She's got to move in 2 months. Her lease is up. How do I get that appointment to meet with them?
Okay. So, ring, ring.
Hello?
Yeah, is Judy there, please?
This is Judy.
Hey, Judy. This is Kevin with RE/MAX Austin Skyline down in Austin. I know we talked a couple months ago, and I just wanted to follow up and see if things are still on track with your move. The last time we spoke, Judy, you had mentioned that you're looking to move and be in the Austin area by the end of February, first part of March. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And I know that you were coming from St. Louis and starting a job prior and going to be in temporary housing. So are you already down here, or when do you arrive in the Austin area?
No, I'm already here.
Okay, so you are here. Good for you. So what I'd like to talk with you about, Judy, is sort of what happens between now and March so you can understand the timeline. And I know when we spoke before, you've just rented. You haven't purchased a home before. So are you familiar with the process of actually buying a house?
No, not really. Like I said, I've never really purchased before, so no. And right now, they just got me in temporary housing. So no, I just I've been looking at houses.
So let me take a minute, if you don't mind, and just walk you through the process, and then we can talk about logical next steps. Next week, we turn the corner into 2013. So it's really, in your timeline, about 2 months until you want to be in a house. Because you did say you want to be in a property by the end of February, first part of March, correct?
Yes, first part of March would be great, yes.
Okay. So let's call it the 1st of January, and let's assume that you entered a contract, and you're not going to do this because it's a holiday weekend, but it's January 1st, and you're entering a contract for a property. Normally, with today's mortgages, you could take anywhere from 35, 40 days up to 60 days, depending on the situation, for purchasing a home. And during that time, you have to get approved for a loan, and you also need to go through an inspection process. But let's just say it's 30 or 45 days. That puts you in the middle of February if you found something January 1st, doesn't it?
Right.
So if you took 2 weeks to find something, you probably would take a couple weeks, right? You want to look at a few homes, and we need to probably go out once or twice, although typically I only go out once or twice with my clients. So if we started on January 1st, or the first week of January, we took 2 weeks, that would put you right to the first part of March, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So in order for you to have enough time to find something, get approved for the mortgage, and I know you talked to Matt Dean at Security National, and you have a little bit of the paperwork to still get to him, but assuming we found something in the first 2 weeks, it sounds like we need to get together next week and talk about specifics for your house in order for you to hit March 1st, doesn't it?
Yep, I guess you're right.
So Judy, tell me this. Would an afternoon appointment work for you, or based on your work schedule, do we need to meet in the evening?
No, I could meet in, well, I mean, I'm pretty busy, but I could meet in the afternoon.
Okay. So I've got some time Tuesday afternoon. Would, say, after 4 o'clock work better, or do you want to meet earlier in the afternoon, like, say, 2?
After 4 would be great.
Okay. So why don't we say Tuesday at 4:30, and we could meet at, and I'll just go through a location at that point.
Okay. All right. So you handled my, I mean, I didn't really, would you consider, I mean, I didn't really have any objections. I just really had a condition, and you just explained to me how the process worked. Would you have tried to maybe close me quicker for an appointment? One of the things we're going to be talking about in the first quarter is dealing with different personality styles. Would you have tried to close me quicker if I was more of a driver personality? Because I don't know if I was a driver, if I would have listened to all of that.
Well, you know, I think a lot of it would be dependent on how you answer the question.
Yep.
I may have been able to close you in the first call if you were a driver personality, but what I want people to understand is if you listen to that and you go back and listen to the recording, I never did anything other than explain to you that it takes, say, 30 to 45 days to purchase a home, 60 days from the outside, and just said, you know what, it's next week, you're 60 days out. And you very clearly and quickly understood that it's time to meet. I didn't have to even say, we better meet. Let's meet.
Right.
I want to meet you next week. I just said, what would be better? It sounds like we need to get together, doesn't it?
Right. Well, you explained to me what the process was. You painted the picture for me of how long it actually took to buy a house. And maybe as a first-time home buyer, I had no clue that it did take a couple weeks to find it. Then we got to close, you know. And I'm an intelligent, you know, woman with a career here in Austin, Texas, but I don't have a clue. So no, I think you did an awesome job. So everybody give Kevin a hand. Yay, Kevin. That was awesome.
I'll also go back and what I did first before I started was I reiterated, you're still in the market for a home, you're still looking to be in by the first week of March.
Yeah.
I did that twice. And I did that for a very specific purpose. If she decided to object, I would have come back to that again. And what that would sound like, you know, she says, I don't really think we need to get together that soon. And I would just come back to it and say, well, Judy, you told me a couple of minutes ago that being in a home by the first week of March into February is a goal for you. So I guess I'll ask you again, if you don't meet, I'm wondering how, if it takes 30 to 45 days and you think you might need a couple of weeks, 10 days to find a home, if you don't meet next week, how are you going to meet your goal of the first week of March?
Right.
Now she's got to explain to me she's either not motivated to buy by the first week of March, or there's something else going on, and then we're going to continue with the questions. Because you'll see these people, especially if they're really slippery, trip up, and they'll be like, you know what, you got me. I really don't need to buy by March. Or this is going on, or that's going on, or we're not sure. We may extend our lease. But it flushes it out in a nice, non-confrontational way, because it's kind of like when you watch a TV show that's a courtroom thing, and they've asked a series of questions, and they come back around, and the person just says, you got me. I mean, because human nature is such that most people are not pathological liars, and a real buyer is going to agree. And a real buyer is going to agree to meet with you, not keep fighting you. Somebody who's not really going to buy is not going to agree to meet with you.
Right. And then the other thing I know that you did that we're really, really careful about and being conscientious about is giving people choices. That you gave me a choice of afternoon or mornings, you know, that we're not just saying, I'm available on Tuesday or Wednesday at these particular times, but the options that you're giving are options that fit your schedule, aren't they? So that, you know, I just want you guys to hear this, is that ultimately, I want you to teach your buyers and your sellers that these are the days that I go on appointments. So you're going to ask your buyer that's on the phone with you right now that I can meet with you on Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon. So a couple things I just want to tie this down, Kevin. We never book appointments more than 48 hours out, do we?
No,
we try not.
Because
I don't say never.
Most people are going to get distracted, and they're going to, unless there's a real valid reason, like they're not. She's coming in from St. Louis, and she won't be here till next Thursday.
But we usually don't, as a rule of thumb, make appointments to meet with buyers for the first time, or even listing sellers for the first time more than 2 days out, because buyers won't show up, and sellers will call and cancel if you make it a week out. They just won't. It won't happen for you. And then we also give them alternative choices based on our schedule, not on their schedule. That it's remember, we're disqualifying folks based on our criteria and who we're working with. So anyway, I just wanted to tie that down about why we do what we do. I think it helps you to understand more. Well, why did they do that? Well, this is why. So anyway, so great job on that one, Kevin. So here the next one is, and I know we've got our lender here in Austin on the phone today here with us, and well, we've got a buyer right now, and they said they already have a lender, and they won't talk to my lender. And how do I get them approved with my guy? Because, and here's how I'm going to tie this down, what's our why is. Guys, we want all of our buyers to be pre-approved with our lender, even if it's what we call pre-approved in parallel. In other words, they're already working with Wells Fargo, our guys at whatever, USA Security Mortgage, and they don't want to use our guy. Well, that's okay. We still want them to get pre-approved in parallel. So go, Kevin. So what do you say to somebody to get them? Because remember, we're never going to give out the lender's number to the buyer. We're going to have our lender call the buyer directly. So what do you say, Kevin, to close them on letting them know that we are going to have our lender call you?
Right. So again, I'm going to put this in some context of the script. So Stephanie, tell me, how much of a down payment are you working with currently?
I have 20%, about 20% down.
Okay, 20% down, great, fantastic. Now, Stephanie, have you met with a mortgage lender to determine your purchasing power?
Yep, I've actually met with Wells Fargo. It's been a couple weeks ago, and I got a pre-approval letter.
Okay, so you have a pre-approval letter with Wells Fargo, fantastic. Now, Stephanie, in order for us to get you one step closer to buying a home in Circle C, all we need to do is set an appointment for you to get together. We'll meet for about 20 minutes and then go through the process. I've got some time Thursday at 2, or would you want to wait till Saturday, say 10 o'clock in the morning?
So you want me to meet with you on Saturday? Is that what we're doing?
Well, yeah, we're going to meet, and between now and Saturday, I'm going to have you talk with Michael Lynch at USA Mortgage, and he's going to go through the process with you. And basically what I do with all my clients is I get them pre-approved in parallel. So it does a couple things for my clients on the buy side. It makes sure that they've got a backup in the event that the first loan doesn't work out. In other words, their pre-approval doesn't end up being what they use. And this has happened before. And the second thing is they validate whether they've got best available pricing in terms of interest rate and terms. So if I were to have Michael call you between now and Saturday, is this the best number to have him call you at?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and should he call you as soon as we hang up today, or is there a better time for him to call you?
He can call me this afternoon, that'd be fine.
Okay, well, you didn't really object very strong to that.
I know, sorry.
So let's try that again. We'll have Stephanie object. What I want you to understand, and I've had many people that I role play with get frustrated because they know they're supposed to object, but because of the way I'm asking questions, it's hard because human nature, unless you're an argumentative person, is to agree because it makes sense. And so Stephanie, one of the things we need to do is we need to get you pre-approved in parallel. I'm going to have Matt Dean from Security National call you. Would the best time for him to call you be right when we hang up on this number, or should he call you at a different time?
Yeah, I don't really understand if I'm already pre-approved with Wells Fargo, why I need to talk to another guy that's your guy.
Sure. Well, and I hear that a lot. Can I explain to you a little bit about why this probably makes sense as it has for other clients that I've worked with?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. What we call this process is getting pre-approved in parallel. And let me explain to you a little bit what could happen. It doesn't always happen, but it certainly happened for other clients. You get and you find the home that you absolutely want to purchase, and for whatever reason, the pre-approval, in your case with Wells Fargo, does not ultimately work out. In other words, things come up. They've had a phone conversation with you, but they haven't fully gotten you pre-approved in writing according to what you told me. So now you get into the process. You are in negotiations for the house, and we're in the inspection period. We're now done. We've got a contract, and something comes up, and now you've got a financing contingency that you have to meet, and you have no backup. Now, if you compare that to getting pre-approved in parallel, it gives you, and it's basically a process by which they'll have a conversation with you. They'll look at your documentation. They'll provide you with a written pre-approval that you can use to compare to Wells Fargo. And if you compare that, in other words, where you're scrambling in the middle of a contract versus having one in parallel, which doesn't cost you anything, it's going to do a couple things for you. You're going to understand the interest rate and the pricing, and you're going to have the comfort level of knowing that even if my Wells Fargo loan is something that I ultimately don't want to use, I've got somebody who has given me a second approval that's a backup. Because I've had clients that frankly got into a really tough situation when they ultimately weren't able to use their initial pre-approval. And doesn't that make sense to have that backup, especially if it doesn't cost you anything?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
It's hard to argue with something that has nothing but benefits for you. You may get some questions about, is this going to hurt my credit score? Is this going to, and some other things we're not going to get into today, but make sure with your lender. So like if you're in St. Louis, for example, and some of our agents that we work with are on the call, and I know here, get with Michael Lynch so you understand what the questions are about running the credit more than once and how this works and all that. I can tell you that I have closed every one of the transactions I've done with Matt Dean down here in Austin with Security National with the objection of, well, I already have a pre-approval. So what we just went through, and every one of them has used Matt. So I can tell you that it works perfectly. It works fine. I had one, and I'll just tie it down before we get into the next objection, where he worked for the federal government. He was pre-approved with USAA. I got him to get pre-approved in parallel, and thank God we did, because USAA said no.
Yeah.
And it would have been absolutely caught in a difficult situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I love too is about how we teach our clients, and what we teach on these calls is that, guys, I know a lot of my clients were doing this. They were just saying, here's my lenders, here's Matt Dean's name and number, please call him today. No. You just tell them, I will have Matt Dean call you, and then you confirm a time. Is this afternoon or tomorrow better for you? Never put that power into your quote-unquote client's hands, because they won't do it. So you just put it back in. If you've got a powerful mortgage lender, that's a partnership you've got with you and your lender. You tell your lender, I need you to call this guy within the next, either this afternoon or tomorrow. And you better make sure that your mortgage lender doesn't quit calling, that he doesn't give up after the first time and say, oh, I tried to call him once and I never called him back again. No. Make sure that that lender never gives up. So
absolutely, and did the same thing when I was operating in St. Louis. I mean, could do the same thing with Michael Lynch. I mean, he would know, and you got to also call your lender, and I would call Michael and say, they'd like a call at 5 o'clock today.
Yep.
And more than one call sometimes is needed. So let's jump in. I know we got some seller objections here that I want to get to that take a little bit more time. So I know that why don't you give us the next one we need to go through.
So the next one is, they said they've already got a realtor. And I'm hearing this from all my people that are in mastery coaching. They're telling me that if the question is, we get, hey, this is Stephanie with St. Louis Real Estate Today. I see that blah, 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 and we're doing the script, and we get down to, hey, by the way, have you been working with any realtors? And they go, yeah, I have been. And they were doing this to us in St. Louis, too, and we had the team. And they'd be like, great, enjoy the website, and they'd, hang up. No. So, Kevin, if I say I have a realtor, and I know you just closed the deal, that they did say they have a realtor, what do you say when they go, you know what, I have been working with a realtor. I met her at an open house, and she's sending me houses. What do you say?
I would say fantastic. So you've had an opportunity to look at some properties, and is it helping you get a better idea about what you're looking for?
Right, and you just keep going, don't you?
Yeah, I'll just go to the next question. I'd ask you, by your price range and area you're looking in, how much of a down payment. I go right through this rest of the script. The time that you want to handle this, because I know somebody's jumping up and down in their seat there saying, oh, we're going to get in trouble. They have a written agreement with their agent. They're under buyer agency. Absolutely, we're not trying to get people to circumvent buyer agency. But what will happen is when you get to the part of the script where you say, fortunately for us to get one step closer to helping you find a home for Circle C in Austin, all we need to do is simply set an appointment so I can help you get what you want in the time frame you want. Wouldn't that be great, Stephanie? She's going to object when I get to this question now that says, what will be the best time for us to get together and start the process? You're going to start getting all of the backpedaling, all of the pushback, in which case you can just ask her to say, is there any reason, because I guess I'm a little confused, Stephanie, is there any reason we can't get together this weekend to help you find a house in Circle C? She'd say, well, I'm already going out with this other agent. Okay, well, let me just ask a simple question. Stephanie, you mentioned this other agent that sent you some properties. I'm just curious, are you under a written agreement with that agent, or is it just somebody you ran into and they're sending you listings? And if they say they're not under agency, you're going to continue on and say, well, I'd like to work with you, Stephanie, and I do have some time this weekend. You know, and I can tell you that, as Stephanie mentioned, I just closed a transaction in the last 10 days where when I asked the question, are you working with any other agents, she said, yeah, I've got a friend who's a real estate agent. I said, fantastic. And so tell me, Sheila, what price range and area are you looking at? I went right past it.
Mm-hmm. It never came up again, did it either?
I got her pre-approved in parallel with my lender here in Austin as well. And not only did I work with her, close the transaction, but the lender, even though she was pre-approved with her credit union, got the loan as well. So both of these objections were handled.
Right. I already have a lender, I already have a realtor, and you closed them. Got Matt Dean got the mortgage, and you got the sale.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely something that if you understand what the benefit is for them, and I explained to her the benefit in both aspects, they have to understand if they're out looking and they've signed up on the website or they're out hunting around for property, however they came across you, they call off one of your signs on your listings, they're not happy with who they have sending them listings.
Right.
And that should be your mindset that you're thinking about when you're asking the question. It's not like you're trying to be extremely difficult. It's not like you're trying to push them. If they're under a written agreement, the answer is, fantastic. If that doesn't work out, we will continue to send you listings through the website. You can certainly contact me if you decide to go a different direction. Enjoy you working with us as far as taking the listings through the website, if that's how they came in. All right, so now we're going to get into a seller-based objection, aren't we?
Yes. So they're an expired, and I love these. I mean, I just love these objections. So they're an expired listing. I got a lot of my clients that are in mastery coaching with me that are calling expired listings, and that's how they're growing, 25% of their business in 2013. And I call up, and the seller says, you know what? They said I'm going to relist with the same agent. So we could just role play that, Kevin. So if you want to just be the listing agent and I'll be the seller, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to go ahead and list with my same agent. So let's go ahead and ring.
So I'll go through the context of how this comes up, and it's going to be something to the extent of ring.
Oh, hello. Good morning.
Yeah, hey, my name is Kevin. I'm a real estate agent in the Circle C area, and I'm sure you figured out by now your home came up on our computer as an expired listing, and I was calling to see when you plan on interviewing the right agent for the job of selling your home.
Oh, gosh, you know what? I think I'm just going to keep it with the same realtor.
Oh, you know what? I hear that a lot, and I'm real curious. If you did sell the home in Circle C, where were you going to next?
We're actually going to be moving out of town. We're actually going to St. Louis.
Okay, so you're moving from Circle C into St. Louis. Fantastic. Now, how soon do you need to be there?
I don't need to be there really until May or June. I'm going to let the kids finish school, and then we're going to go.
Okay, so you're planning on moving in the May, June time frame, and your time frame is predicated on having the kids get out of school first. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm curious. How did you happen to pick the last agent you listed with?
Well, my neighbor had a friend who's in the real estate business, and, she's done a pretty good job. She's holding the house open every weekend.
Okay, so it was a neighbor or a friend of a neighbor or somebody, and this is an agent that you feel did a decent job because they held it open, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, what did the agent do that you liked best?
Well, I really do think it's, I really wanted them to hold the house open all the time because I'd always heard that that's how you get homes sold, is having it open.
Okay, so you liked that they held your house open. Now tell me, Stephanie, what do you feel that they should have done in order to get your home sold?
Well, of course they should have sold it. I mean, she told me she was doing everything she could, and they told me she told me she could sell my house, and it hasn't sold yet. So, I'm a little disappointed.
So you are a little bit disappointed, and you think, I tend to agree with you on this, that when you hire a agent to list and sell your house, you really want to not only have it listed but get it sold, correct?
Yeah, that was our main objective, was to get it sold.
Okay, and so what will you expect from the next agent you choose to work with?
Well, like I said, I'm going to probably just stick with her, and I just want her to get this house sold so we can move on.
So you do want to get it sold. Now, have you actually already chosen the agent you're going to be working with?
Well, yeah, like I said, it's going to be the same agent that's had it before. It's just easier. I'm just going to go ahead and, let her. I think she's going to send me over a piece of paper, and all I got to do is sign it, and she'll put it on for another 4 or 5 months.
Okay, absolutely. And you've been on the market for like 100 days, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, and have you looked at the market report for your area to take a look at how quickly homes are selling?
No, I haven't really seen any market reports.
Okay, so you haven't really seen any reports. Well, I tell you what, I'd certainly like to apply for the job of selling your home, Stephanie. Are you familiar with the techniques I use to sell homes?
Nope, I've never heard of you.
Really? You're kidding. What would be the best time to show you? I've got some time either later today at 4 o'clock, or would this evening be better for you, say after 6?
So you want to come by and show me how you sell houses when I told you that I'm just going to go ahead and list with my current agent?
Well, yeah, I certainly hear every day that people would like to list with the same agent because, as you said, to use your word, it's easier, right, than having to go through an interview. So I guess the question is, for you, how important is it that you're in St. Louis in May?
Well, I have to be there. I mean, I have this new job, and I got to get the kids moved and got to get them settled before we start school again in late August in St. Louis. So, yeah, it's really important that I get this house sold.
Okay, so I guess I got to ask you a tough question. If it's important enough that if it didn't happen, would you basically say the consequences would be dire if it didn't sell, or just it's not a big deal?
No, to use your words, it's dire.
Okay, so would it be worth 20 minutes of your time to figure out if a different, more aggressive approach would actually ensure that you can get to St. Louis by May, or would it be better just to take the easy route, even if that might put you in jeopardy of not being able to move in time?
Well, I probably need to, I guess it wouldn't hurt to get a second opinion.
Let's do the right thing. Let's spend 20 minutes together. At the end of those 20 minutes, if it doesn't make sense for you to go forward and use my plan, then sign with the other agent. But don't you think you owe yourself 20 minutes tonight to actually figure out how to get the house sold and get to St. Louis by May?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so you want to say like 6:30 at your house?
6:30 is fine. Does my husband need to be there?
Yeah, that's the next question I was going to ask. Is your husband home by then, or do we need to make it a little bit later this evening? So
I can make sure he's here so he can hear.
Okay, fantastic. Why don't we say 7 o'clock then?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So I asked some questions. She could have objected 10 different ways. I went to the motivation. If she does need to be in another house because she's building something, she needs to be in a different town, I'm going right back to that and going to ask, is it more important to take the easy route or to get to the finish line? Most people will back down when they're asked a question like that. Not always. I would also go to something like, another variant of this would be to talk about the fact that based on the market, Stephanie, I know you said you haven't seen any market reports, but would it surprise you to hear that while you were on the market, the average home is selling in 25 days and you've been on for 100? And she's going to probably be quiet and say, you're kidding.
Right.
Yeah, there have been 17 homes that have sold while you've been on the market. Are you at least curious to find out somebody's opinion as to why that may have occurred?
Yeah. No, that was awesome. I hope everybody else thought that was awesome as I do. I mean, it really is just asking great questions. And you knew my why. I hear my mastery clients always throw that back at me. I love it when they regurgitate what we've been talking about for months and months is, finding out what their why is. You knew I had a powerful why. You knew, you kept going back to that about, is it going to be dire if you don't sell your house?
Don't fire all your bullets in one objection handler. I still had the market data as she kept objecting. I could have just been puzzled to say, I'm just always curious. What would you think would happen that would be different in the next 100 days?
Yeah.
With your agent that was different than last time? Because I think we can agree if things are selling in 25 days, 17 homes have sold, that it's not the market that's kept your home from selling. What do you think it is if it's not the market?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, I'm great, I'm number one, my company's number one, I'm this, that, I'm that. Never once did I say I, or I am, or it's all about me. I just asked her questions that help her understand it. And there's a million variants based on what they tell you as to how to handle this.
Okay, awesome job on that one, Kevin. So we've got two more, and I know we want to get done. And I think we're probably only going to really have time to finish this last one. We can pick up, so it'll be our top 5 today instead of our top 6.
Okay.
But because I just want to kind of close it with just some thoughts that you and I have about moving into 2013. So I have some first-time home buyers, and I know a lot of my clients have first-time home buyers. A lot of you on the phone today have first-time home buyers that have parents that are going to be helping with the down payment. And what I hear this all the time, they never get the parents involved from the very beginning. And then what happens when we've picked our top 3, and now we've picked our primary house, and we want to make an offer, and our parents haven't seen the house. So, Kevin, how do you handle that when you meet a first-time home buyer and you ask them about, because one of our questions we ask in the buyer consultation is, and we're very, very careful about this, is there anybody else going to be part of the decision-making process? We asked that question right in the beginning, so I guess I'm answering my own question. I didn't mean to do that. So, Kevin, how would we handle, let me go back, how would we handle a first-time home buyer that we know that they're getting help on the down payment?
So Stephanie, in response to me asking you if there's anybody else involved in the process, you had mentioned that your dad is actually going to gift you and your husband a down payment, or most of the down payment, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And is your father, in town, or does he live out of town?
Well, he's here in town.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, what we found has worked extremely well is to, when we get together with the buyers for the initial consultation, is to have the family member who's helping out be part of that process. Because let me ask you this, when we find the home, and your father is going to undoubtedly want to see it, correct, before you actually write a contract on it, wouldn't you expect?
Oh, yeah, he's going to want to have some insight into it.
Sure, and let me tell you what's worked well. And as I mentioned, we've had some challenges with this where we try and exclude the parent, in this case your father. What we end up doing is we do a buyer consultation. We'll bring your father in so your father understands what the process is. And frankly, we'd love to have your father tag along on the, because it's only 1 or 2 times we usually go out versus coming in later. And in Austin, in our market, things are selling very quickly. And so what I wouldn't want to have happen is for your husband and you to find the perfect home. In other words, we've seen 8, 10, 12 homes. Now we know we need to write an offer on it because it's a brand new listing. And now we have to hold up the process in order for your father to come out and see the house. You and your husband wouldn't want to miss out on a house because we didn't get Dad involved up front, would you?
No,
So do you want to check with your father to make sure 10 o'clock tomorrow is going to work for him?
So you want him to be there at that first initial appointment? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I guess I'll ask the question this way. How strongly do you feel that you don't want to put yourself at risk at not being able to move forward because we go out and find a house this weekend, and then we got to go try and get your dad to see it, and you might lose it to another buyer? Do you want to get him involved and have him come to the meeting? It's certainly up to you.
No, you're right. I hadn't really thought about him having to be in this first initial meeting. So, yeah, I think we want to get him involved from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I tell you what, within my schedule and availability, I'm happy to move things around so we can include him. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because I think it's important, like you've just said.
Right. No, I think it makes complete sense.
Yeah, you're going to have them selling you on why this is a fantastic idea, because I've explained that you may lose out on your first choice house if we have to hold up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, I'm not trying to challenge the buyer to be on their own. Some buyers are firstly independent. I'm just asking the question, which case you may hear, even if Stephanie said, no, this is our deal, we're going to get to pick the house, you know, and I'm still going to future pace it and say, well, Stephanie, what if? I know you said you're independent and your dad's going to let you just pick what you want to purchase, but what if your father says, I'd like to see the home before you write an offer on it, and I give you $35,000 for a down payment?
Yep.
And you lose out on that house. Wouldn't it be better to try and include your dad? It's not you're giving up any power to him. You just lower that risk. I mean, and then frankly, if they say, no, it's not going to be a problem, you can't, you know, that becomes something that you can't really push. You've now covered that ground with them if it did come up in the future.
Yeah. Because we see it all the time. We saw it in St. Louis when we had a big buyer's agent team that we get somebody under contract, nice couple, 25 years old, dad's giving them money. You know, we're in St. Louis, and they're buying a house in St. Charles, and Dad lives in Kirkwood. He doesn't know anything about the St. Charles market. They show him the house, and Dad hates it. It's in the wrong side of town. It's blah, blah, blah. It's not good enough, and he hasn't seen the other 20 houses that we've shown them, so he has nothing to compare it to. And the deal falls apart, doesn't it, Kevin? And we got to start all over again, meaning putting Dad back in the car with this young couple that's buying a house. So make sure that you're asking that question up front, that you're avoiding everything we try to teach is how to keep you out of harm's way. So no, I think you presented that really, really well, Kevin, and I think that it's important that we get, especially with those first-time home buyers, if somebody, even if they're not giving money, you know, even if they're just part of the decision-making process, that my parents are going to want to be a part of this, or my older brother, or my next-door neighbor, whoever is influencing them, is a question we ask at the coffee shop when we meet with them is there anybody else that's going to be part of this decision-making process for you? Yeah, it's my aunt. You know. Yeah. Let
me tie this down. You know, if you're in a market that is not subject to multiple offers. Now, in markets like Texas or Austin, multiple offers occur, especially when first-time home buyer price points, almost every time. We have anywhere from 2, 3 offers to 15. So that objection handler is very relevant. And in your market, it may not be. The other way that you can frame this up is, now, Stephanie, one of the things we want to make sure that doesn't occur is we get into contract, you spend close to $1,000 on inspections, and you've got an appraisal ordered, you've put all your money up, and then we've seen this before. A parent comes in and they want to quash the deal because they don't like the area, don't like the house. And just so you understand, that money is not refundable. Once you've already had the appraisal done and had the inspection done, you may have an opportunity to walk away based on the contract process, but you're still out all that money. You wouldn't want to put yourself at risk to losing all of that money, which could be close to $1,000, just for the fact that we excluded up front your parent. Wouldn't it make more sense to have them involved in the process up front than put yourself at risk? That's the other way to handle it.
Well, what's funny about these objection handlers and using our words and scripts is that, you know, I have really looked at, and I mean, we've got all these different systems, don't we have, Kevin, that we've been with one of the major coaching companies that coached us for almost 2 years, and we were with Keller Williams, and we were with MAPS coaching and leadership coaching and ran big offices. And when I went to want to put my hands on a script for some of these objections, I think what's so hard about putting this into writing is we just spent 45 minutes on 5 scripts. Then we had to cover the why, we say what we say, how we say it, and if they say this, then you say that, the difference between an objection and a condition. I don't know, Kevin, that it's easy to teach people scripts just reading a script. I think that unless we get to go through each one of these scenarios and kind of role play it one way and then another way, because you've got different personality styles and different reasons and different things that people are going to push back on, I can see my aha here is, why there's really, I mean, there's binders and binders and binders of script books, but unless you really hear people having the conversation, and maybe go back and listen to this a couple times about an internet lead came in, how do I set an appointment? And my lender won't, I mean, there isn't a pat objection handler for each objection, is there, Kevin? There isn't, because we're all different human beings.
It's much more of a framework, and the framework is, and I'll type this down as we wrap up today, is a lot of repeating and affirming, asking them the question in the framework of what they've told you, especially around motivation, especially around what the benefit is for them, allows you to ask some pretty direct questions. I mean, if you didn't understand in the case of that expired listing that it was absolutely going to be a dire consequence if they didn't get to St. Louis by May, that you couldn't come back to that if you didn't ask that question. So what I want you to understand the framework is you have to ask questions, you have to repeat, you have to tie it in, you have to come back to it again, and that allows you then to have them tell you whether this makes any sense or not. And you saw, and I've had the people that try and be the most argumentative with me on role-playing not be able to do it when I just ask questions. And it's a series of questions built around what they're telling you, you explaining why it's important or what the benefit is to them, and then coming back to it, and sometimes coming back to it 3 different ways. Because once they understand what the benefit is and the why for why this is important to even consider it, that seller didn't want to go try and just relist with the same agent if they were putting themselves at risk. The person who didn't want to go to the lender understands why it may make some sense and there's no downside to them. The person who's not moving for 2 months now understands why it's important to me now. The first-time buyer with parents involved, I mean, you think about it, it's always the same framework for why is it important and what's the benefit for me as the prospect. If you don't do that, in other words, you don't know the motivation, you don't know whether you should be closing them, and you don't explain the benefit and the why and what the benefit is, you won't have good success in handling objections. And if you go back and listen to this again, you'll understand, and I wish I had a video of me standing here. I have no scripts in front of me. I just done this enough times that you'll see that it works, and I could do it 10 different ways. You can record this again and again and again. It will be slightly different, but always end up with the same set of questions.
So, and I do want to tie this down a little bit about going back to just the introducing of this particular session. We talked about using our words. That, there's all kinds of classes that we can take about, how to call expireds, how to call FSBOs, how to deal with SOI. There's all kinds of things we can sign up for and how to write a business plan. But if we don't know how to ask great questions in this business and know how to handle objections and conditions and practice this, so that it comes so naturally. It comes for you and I so naturally because we've done our 10,000 hours, haven't we, Kevin?
Absolutely.
We've done our, one of our favorite books it's about talent is overrated. That it's got nothing to do with talent, guys. It's got nothing to do with, oh, you should be in real estate. You're so outgoing. What a bunch of, excuse my French, crap. But unless you know, this is why I see people failing, is because they give up. Well, they said they have a lender. I give up. I'm not going to try to refer them. They said they don't have a realtor. I give up. They said they're going to relist with the other agent. I give up. Most of the agents, 80% of the agents are giving up after the first question. Okay, try the website. Okay, good luck with that agent again. They're not asking enough questions to find out whether or not they even want to pursue this particular client to be prospect, and they're just giving up. And how many people, and this is how I know people are failing, because I know people are talking to 100 people and not setting any appointments. Well, it's because you're not asking enough questions. So I think as we go, I'm going to tie this down, as we go into 2013, guys, I think the most important thing you can be working on, a lot of you are are doing coaching with me and you're on this call, it isn't about so much knowing your numbers. That's important, but it's about asking the right questions. The skill is in the language. The skill isn't in even being able to price houses or knowing that I've got to talk to 50 expireds to get an appointment. The skill is in knowing what to say. More than anything else, it's a huge aha for me as I've been going through my business planning with all my clients is it really comes down to, are you talking to enough people and are you asking the right questions? The skill isn't, all the other stuff, all the other nonsense that we do. It's about, good golly, are we asking the right questions? And do we know how to handle an objection versus a condition?
Right. Well, and it's not perfect science. I would tell you that
No,
some of my best sellers, and I'll done with sellers because
Yep.
you made a comment, and I want people to get confused. I got hung up on regularly, but
Yeah.
I always made sure that I, as quickly as possible, assessed timing and motivation, because some of the most pissed off people in the seller world as expired listings are some of your best prospects. And I'm going to close with this story. There was one, and it was in Webster. He was this crotchety German guy. He hung up on me, but I knew that he already purchased another home in Webster, and he was closing on it, so he was going to end up with 2 homes, so he absolutely had to sell. And I went over and knocked on his door. I was the only one that went over and knocked on his door. And we had a quick conversation at like 7 o'clock at night. Stephanie was sitting in the car.
It was dark. It was dark out.
And I closed him for an appointment after talking to him and asking him all the questions from the script. So what you have to understand is, if, even in the seller world, you get hung up on, or on the buy side, they don't have time to talk to you right then. If you can figure out timing and motivation and nothing else on an initial call, you can assess whether or not it warrants aggressive follow-up or no follow-up.
Yep. Yeah, and I remember when Kevin did that. I mean, we drove by. It was I think it was a FISBO. It was a big house in Webster Grove, a couple $100,000, and it wasn't in the park, but it was a big house. And the guy said, "No, hung up on you." And Kevin it was dark out, and I'm sitting in the car, and Kevin went knocked on the door and got an appointment. So, but you knew they had to move. Because they had bought a house in the park, didn't they, Kevin? That was the same guy, if I'm thinking right. And they were going to completely gut this house. He'd already bought it, and they were gutting it already. He had to sell his house. So anyway, with that, guys, boy, Happy New Year to each and every one of you. I can't wait to learn and grow, and not to, I'm taking another one of those big brands. One of their mission statements, but it is about being committed to learning, growing, and changing. And I have ahas every week when I'm with my coaching clients. I have ahas when Kevin and I do these things. And we're so glad that you spend the time that you do with us on Fridays, and we just hope that you continue to tune in and turn on with Kevin and Stephanie on Fridays. And again, Happy New Year.